This is the Horse Radio Network. This is episode 360 of Horse Tip Daily, a different horse tip, a different equine topic, a different equestrian expert every day. Horse Tip Daily brings the world of equine knowledge to you one day at a time. Today's tip is sponsored by Kentucky Performance Products. Visit them at kppusa.com. This is Glenn the Geek from Lexington, Kentucky, and welcome back to Horse Tip Daily. Today we have a new expert on with us. She's an attorney. Her name is Julie Fershtman. She's widely recognized as one of the nation's leading counselors and litigators in equine law. Her law practice crosses all equine breeds and disciplines and serves stables, industry professionals, associations, businesses, show management, insurers, trainers, equestrian athletes, and celebrity clinicians across the United States. She is highly experienced in handling a wide variety of frequently encountered things, including personal injury, business conflicts, partnership disputes, sales disputes, and numerous other things. You know, we feel here at the Horse Radio Network that one of the most neglected things in an equestrian business is the legal aspect of the legal side, proper contracts and all of that. So that's why we're having Julie on here, is to chat with us a little bit about that. And, you know, I've been as guilty as that in the past as anybody when we were running our stable. So we're looking forward to having Julie help us with what we really need and what may be necessary or unnecessary in the legal side of things when running our equestrian businesses. And we're going to do that right after I speak a little bit about Kentucky Performance Products. You know, they have something going on right now. If you're a user of Kentucky Performance Products, of any of their products, if you hop on over to their Facebook page, just search for Kentucky Performance Products on Facebook, and you hop into their fan page and you go to reviews. And you post a review there of one of the products that you are using. They have a little gift pack for you. So if you stop on over to Kentucky Performance Products on Facebook, post a review of one of the products that you are using, they actually have a little gift pack for you that they'll send out to you. And I know that some of our listeners have posted on there, and we're looking forward to seeing others post. And also mention that you heard about Kentucky Performance Products from the Horse Radio Network. We'd appreciate that as well. And if you want to visit their website to see about all of their supplements, you can visit kppusa.com. Well, hi, Julian. Welcome to your first Horse Tip Daily. Welcome to the show.
Well, hello there. Thanks for having me.
It's fun to have you on. Now, you know, it's always interesting because you are an attorney. So I always have to be careful what I say now, and I'm going to have to be watching what I do. No, anybody that knows me and listens to shows for a long time, it doesn't matter who it is. I never pretty much watch what I say, which, by the way, makes our insurance company very nervous. But that's a whole different tip. So you're an attorney out of Michigan.
That is correct.
All right, and you deal mostly in equine law. Tell me, so I assume did you have a horsey background?
I sure do. I'm getting up there in the years, but when I was a kid, I used to have a small horse and showed in all sorts of kid-type events that we would call gymkhanas or barrel racing.
Yep.
Yep, we're going back to the 70s. Then grew up and started getting involved in the show horse field and started showing horses English and Western and had an absolute blast with that. And my husband and daughter and I live in an area, it's a suburb of Detroit, with a 2-stall horse barn. The barn is empty right now, but we'll probably be filling it up in a couple of years.
Oh, cool. Well, that's good. Yeah, you know you're going to miss that. And how old's your daughter?
14.
14?
And hasn't quite connected with horses, so the barn's been empty for that reason.
Oh, that's sad, because the sooner they connect with horses, the later they connect with boys. That's a tip we've had in the past. But I think you're almost beyond that point at this. You're stuck with that one. Well, we're going to talk, and then you went to law school at some point here.
That is true.
And
went to law school at Emory in Atlanta, Georgia.
Oh, okay.
Correct.
That's a long way and a lot warmer than Michigan.
Right now, as I look out and see a little bit of snow on the ground, I couldn't agree with you more. It's a little warmer, and it was many years ago, too. About 24 years ago, I graduated.
Okay. And you've been practicing law ever since?
That is correct.
All right. And how did you end up doing equine law, getting into equine law?
Well, Interestingly, in law school back in the 80s, there was never a course in equine law, and I don't even think there were any books on equine law. It took about 7 years out of law school for me to realize that maybe there is such a field. But because there was no internet, but plenty of law libraries, I spent weekends, literally full weekends, researching, reading, finding everything I could, and discovering patterns in the law, trends in the law, and what equine law involved. And little by little, a practice began to develop.
Now, isn't it completely different as far as state by state? With some states have equine measures in place and some don't. Is that true pretty much across the country that it's so different from state to state?
That is really true, and that's one of the difficulties of talking to people because they expect a lawyer to be somewhat like a veterinarian. If it's a lameness problem, it's the same condition and the same, or pretty much the same type of recommended protocols. But when you're dealing with the law, there are tremendous state-by-state variations. One example would be the equine activity liability law. Another example would be sales disputes and sales laws that vary from state to state, or real estate laws that can affect zoning, land use, and all sorts of other related issues. And because of that, it becomes a bit difficult talking about equine law because there really is no pat answer to every legal problem.
So what are we going to talk about today? How are we going to help people today?
Well, we could talk a little bit about equine law, if you'd like, and what it is.
Okay, that and most of us, most people in the I say this a dozen times on Horse Tip Daily. Most people in the equine business are into horses, are in the equine business in one shape or another. They give lessons, they board horses, they board their horses. In one way or another, you're involved in business, and it is interesting how many of us just don't do anything with a lawyer, even though we're in business.
That's true. And as a lawyer myself, of course, I find it surprising that once people get into trouble, once a dispute arises, they suddenly then call the lawyer. It doesn't always have to be that way. And when people are on a budget, it's not the legal work that tends to get prioritized. It's other things. It's working on fixing up the barn, upgrading the trucks, making improvements, not necessarily budgeting for a lawyer. But equine lawyers do a whole bunch of things. And to just kind of give you a general idea here, not every lawyer can truly say that they do all of what we can think of as equine law, because equine law really does span so many different things. A couple of examples: real estate. Some lawyers are especially knowledgeable of real estate issues that pertain to horses, such as zoning disputes, easement issues, land use issues with equine properties. Other people, like me, are especially experienced in sales in terms of drafting of contracts, going to court on sales disputes, or personal injury disputes. I do quite a bit of that, where somebody was hurt from a horse, and there's a need to fight the matter out or to make a claim for an injury. Some lawyers do that more than others. Tax law. I don't do that, but there are some lawyers who do equine law that are true specialists in equine taxation. One of the hottest issues with horse people is the issue of those who think they have an equine business, write off a lot of expenses, only to have the IRS disagree and say, that's not a business, that's a hobby,
right,
and strike the deductions. But there are tax lawyers, there are administrative lawyers, lawyers who deal with governmental disputes involving horses, or issues involving associations, racetrack issues. A lot of lawyers specialize in those issues with jockeys and drivers who have been excluded from the track or who are fighting a suspension. Because of these examples, as you can tell, equine law is pretty broad. We could even go further. There are some lawyers who are especially experienced in criminal law pertaining to animal ownership and animal issues. There are corporate practitioners who set up syndications and business entities, and arguably that too is equine law. So it really is quite a broad field.
How do I, as as an equine business owner, how do I find an attorney that I know will be able to help me out?
Thanks to the internet, it's a bit easier, but the old rule of looking for referrals is still good. And what I suggest to people would be a couple of things. One is look for a referral to a lawyer who may have expertise, But if you can't get a referral, I often recommend people call some of the largest equine associations in their state, maybe a horse show organization, maybe a track, maybe the state veterinarian's office, and ask if these people are familiar with any attorneys who have special expertise with horse issues. You'd be surprised. You can get names. But then you can also go online, and there are some websites that are geared to helping people find lawyers. One is www.martindale, martindale.com. It's also connected with lawyers.com. When you go on that site, you can look for a lawyer in a specific state, sometimes even a city or county, and you would type in on that site equine law. And I think people listening would be very surprised. A lot of lawyers are out there who practice equine law, or just do the old usual Google search, and that too can yield some lawyers with expertise.
Now, do you want somebody in your state?
Sometimes yes, sometimes no. I always recommend, wherever possible, that people develop a good working relationship with an experienced lawyer in their state. So when my office gets calls from people all over the country, and we really do, we get a lot of them, we try as hard as we can to find an attorney in their state. Sometimes, however, I find that people are looking for a lawyer with very unique and very special expertise and are willing to go that extra distance to have a local attorney plus a specialist. That might explain why I've tried cases in 4 states, because some people are willing to make that effort. And when I personally try state cases out of my state, there will need to be, just by ethics rule, a lawyer from that state sitting right there in trial with me or showing up at major hearings. It's not always necessary to have an out-of-state attorney, and sometimes there is simply no lawyer with expertise in state. So the individual has to make a choice. But I've always felt that even if a lawyer doesn't have horse expertise, that may not disqualify the lawyer from working on a given matter. All a person needs to do is talk to the lawyer. If they feel that the lawyer has the right knowledge, the right ability to learn, the right rates, the right years of experience, well, they may just as well have found their lawyer, even though this person doesn't claim to be an equine law practitioner.
Okay. And now, to make it a little bit easier, at some point along the line, you decided that to put out a couple of books.
Oh, yeah, that's right. I've got 3 books now.
Oh, 3 now. Okay.
Yes.
So tell us what they are.
Well, thanks for asking. First book is called Equine Law and Horse Sense, and that book goes through general legal issues and problems that people encounter with some common sense ways to avoid them. And about 10 years ago now, I wrote my second book, and that's called, how's this for a unique title, More Equine Law and Horse Sense. It's not designed to rewrite. It doesn't rewrite.
You were feeling
the first
creative
book.
that day, huh?
I guess so, and look what happened. It doesn't rewrite the book, but it's designed to complement the book, and it covers even more disputes that people encounter, how to avoid them. And then just last year, I helped write a book I co-authored for the American Bar Association. This isn't really a book for the average horse owner to buy. It's a book for lawyers and legal assistants, and it's called Litigating Animal Law Disputes, A Complete Guide for Lawyers. I wrote 4 chapters in that book. So these books are out there, and if anybody's interested, you can learn generally about them by going to www.equinelaw.net or equinelaw.info, and it tells you a little bit about them.
And so the first 2, the Equine Law and Horse Sense, and then More Equine Law and Horse Sense, are really meant for people like me who are just average people running a horse business.
That's true, especially the second book, More Equine Law and Horse Sense. It has a little bit more information than the first on business issues, how businesses can benefit from setting up a corporation, how they can do it properly to limit their liability. So book 2 tends to be more for the business person, but yes, both books are designed for the average horse owner out there.
And the third one, if you have insomnia, and that's the one to get then.
That book would put you to sleep in a heartbeat.
Okay.
But it does cover some interesting topics, and it talks about dog legislation, dangerous dog issues, for example. That hits the news quite a bit.
Yeah.
About the pit bulls, but that's not the topic of today's talk, so we'll move along on that.
All right, so that's equinelaw.net. And I think in future tips here, we're going to get into a little bit more detail on specific topics. But on this one, we really wanted to cover what is equine law and how to find an equine attorney. So I appreciate you being on, and we'll talk to you again soon.
Great. Thanks for having me.
Well, thanks, Julie, for joining us. We are looking forward to having her back to talk about more of the legal side, getting into contracts, what you need, what you don't need, that kind of thing for running your business. So stay tuned for more tips from Julie in the months ahead. Well, keep in mind that this week is the holiday week, and we have some special things planned on all the different shows. On the morning show, we have some great guests planned this week, so you want to stay tuned. Plus, on Friday, we have our friend Templeton Thompson in a special recorded episode all about her music and her life, and we just go one-on-one with Templeton Thompson, and we spend an hour just chatting with her. It's an episode that you don't want to miss on Christmas Eve, the 24th. Well, that's it, everybody. We'll talk to you again tomorrow. We'll be back with another tip with another expert, and we'll see you then. Be safe and wear your helmet.
The Horse Radio Network and the Horse Radio Network hosts are not responsible for statements of guests or their opinions. Use your own judgment when listening to the tips provided by the experts on Horse Tip Daily.